don't believe my thoughts, and I don't try to fill that wide open gap. Would I have a clue what I'm supposed to do? Being vulnerable and unprotected, being open for the unsuspected, it's not what we would choose. We're so afraid to lose. Courage comes from that not knowing, the courage to acknowledge what is really here. Not knowing has been believed to be a weakness, but it's a well of strength and power beyond all fear. No, you don't know how to live. Is there a willingness to feel and sense what is here? Even when there is fear, no one else can tell you how it is for you. Yes, you are alone in this great unknown. But courage comes from that not knowing, the courage to acknowledge what is really here. Not knowing has been believed to be a weakness, but it's a well of strength and power beyond all fear. Instead of trying to fit in, you can live, express and feel whatever's true for you, even if you don't know what to do. Life will always challenge how you think that it should be, until it's clear to us, until the moment we can see that courage comes from that not knowing, the courage to acknowledge what is really here. Not knowing has been believed to be a weakness, but it's a well of strength and power beyond all fear.
Hello everyone and welcome. Welcome to those of you who are joining us on Zoom, and also to those who are watching the live stream on YouTube, or the recording of the live stream. Yes, today you may notice, for those of you who are regularly joining these, that you can't see each other, right? On the Zoom, you don't see each other's videos. We are doing this now to protect your privacy on YouTube. But I just want to let you know that I can see you. So if we have a dialogue, that I will be able to actually see you, which is great for me to be able to interact with you directly, but at the same time, you won't be spread all over YouTube. Yeah. So on YouTube, I presume you will just be seeing me. Okay. So today's theme is, are you spiritually bypassing? And before we get into that, I'd like to start with a guided meditation. So if we can just get comfortable and close our eyes. And we can start by taking some deeper breaths into the belly. And with each breath, settling more and more into the chair or the sofa or wherever you're sitting. Feeling the contact with the feet on the ground or the bum on the seat. Noticing any sounds that are happening in the background where you are. Noticing any sounds in this background here, the sound of my voice, or my cough. I'm just going to mute myself for a moment while I just have a good cough. Yeah, I'm back. So we just start to notice the sensations, noticing how this body feels right now. Can take a moment to scan the body, just noticing whatever is here. Nothing needs to be changed or fixed or healed. We're just simply meeting whatever is here, just the way it is. And if there is any thought, commentary, We just notice that too, just like any other sensation. We don't give it more importance than anything else. And as we are noticing the experience right now, the sensations, the emotions, the thoughts, or whatever is happening in the experience, there is the knowing of it. And this knowing of whatever is here, this is who you are. This is the background to whatever is happening in the foreground. And this background is untouched, always still, always free. Timeless, oneness, wholeness. Always aware of whatever is happening in this human experience. And we can bring the attention back to this human experience, noticing the breath, Noticing the sensation of the bum on the seat or the feet on the ground. And then when you're ready, we can open our eyes. So, are you spiritually bypassing? Well, what is spiritual bypassing, first of all? When we hear these beautiful spiritual concepts and teachings, it is natural for the mind to try to grasp whatever is being spoken of. It's trying to understand, it's trying to do it, it's trying to bring it into your experience in order to try to help the human experience. So when there are uncomfortable sensations or challenging times, the mind naturally wants to help, and if there have been some beautiful insights, then it will record the story, the concepts or the ideas of those insights or the beautiful words that have been spoken, and it will try to use those words to help in those challenging times, which is a natural thing to do. This is the programming of the mind. This is the nature of the mind, that it tries to help the human experience. It tries to help this human survive in the world. It works together with this body to support an experience of comfort and ease and safety. So it doesn't do anything wrong. It is always going to be limited. The thinking, the mind will always be limited. It cannot understand true spirituality or the recognition of who you really are. It cannot understand awakening to the truth of life itself, because the thinking is always just a tool to be in the world. It is of the world. It's not that, it is not of the knowing of it. So it can never reach far back enough to grasp the background. It will always be playing in the foreground, in the experience, and it can never know the awareness of it. But it keeps trying. It keeps remembering the words and then regurgitating them later. So spiritual bypassing is a term that is used for when we use some of these beautiful spiritual concepts to help us deal with challenging times in our lives. And by doing so, we avoid feeling or confronting, facing those uncomfortable experiences or feelings, or dealing with, let's say, looking at certain beliefs or attitudes or identities that we are still buying into. And it can be a very challenging one to see through this spiritual bypassing mechanism, because it tends to feed an identity of someone who is spiritual, someone who has attained a certain state of spirituality. It might feed a kind of hobby or pastime, an interest that you have. It might feed your social circle and what you have to talk about, or what you read, or what you watch on the internet. And so we tend to not want to give up this identity of the spiritual one, or the one who's got it or knows. But if we are really deeply in love with the truth, we will be willing to investigate this one, even if it means that we have to lose who we have believed ourselves to be, or what we have believed ourselves to have attained. Because really recognizing who you are and resonating with the beautiful teachings and pointings to the truth of who you are, we have to recognize that the mind can't grasp it. And so when it tries to grasp it, anything that it remembers is not it. It's just not it. It's a memory. It's a concept. It's turned the words into a new belief system. Of course, some of the words can be useful in those times of trouble, but when they feed the identity, we have to be careful with this one, because that identity is there to fill a gap. Without that identity of being the spiritual one, or the one who has recognized something or attained something, then we are left with this question of, well, who am I now if I'm not that one? If I don't know anything, if I haven't attained anything, if I don't understand anything that has been heard from spiritual teachers, if I'm left with just nothing, then what? Then we have to face and feel everything that we have been putting off or denying or suppressing. And this can be uncomfortable. This can be frightening. But then we come back to that deeper longing. What do we most deeply long for? Is it just to hold on to a spiritual identity? Is it to just be someone special? Or is it to truly wake up out of all beliefs and identities, and to continually wake up, which means we never land in any particular identity. We are never the one who has attained anything. There is no such thing as being someone who's spiritual or enlightened or awakened. This is an identity, a story, an image, a dream. And without that, we are just here now with whatever is here in the experience, meeting it for what it is, and knowing that it doesn't ever mean anything about who you are. So if you have a beautiful recognition experience, a sense of expansion and opening your heart, or whatever it is, this doesn't mean anything about you. And if you feel confused, or there's a lot of thinking, or you're going through some uncomfortable experiences or emotions, this also doesn't mean that you are not spiritual or you're not free. So spiritual bypassing seems to feed this identity that keeps you separate. It keeps you as someone who is special or different, isolated from the rest of the world or the rest of life. It keeps you separate from the reality of whatever sensations or experiences are here. You use the beautiful concepts to kind of sidestep whatever might be a bit messy or a bit uncomfortable in life. And it can be very sneaky in the way we spiritually bypass, because it can seem like we are really recognizing the truth. We can speak all the right words, and this is a paradox, really. We have to see that actually who we are really is that is beyond all the human experience. It is untouched by it all. That is who you are always. But then there is also the human experience, and there you are absolutely touched. And there is no escape from that into that is beyond it. You are both simultaneously. So you cannot use that recognition of who you are as the awareness of it all in order to escape the human experience. This is a mind game. And eventually, life will in some way slap you awake out of that dream. It will inevitably bring some uncomfortable situation or some tragedy, some kind of hard slap in the way that, can be very unexpected, to wake you up out of this bypassing of the reality of life. So don't wait for this kind of slap. Recognize for yourself what you're doing, if that's what you're doing. And it can be that we're all doing that to a certain degree, because, as I said, it is very sneaky. And even if you think that you are not doing it very obviously, you may have landed in some kind of more hidden or more sneaky identity that thinks, yes, now I know. And this is still acting as a way of avoiding something in your life. So it's about continually losing who we think we are and free falling into the unknown, never landing in anything or anyone, and meeting life in its rawness, just the way it is, unprotected, vulnerable. So I'd love to hear from you now. So if you have a question about what I've shared, you're welcome to ask or bring up some area of your life that you would like to explore in more depth that is obviously related to this theme. And you can just raise your hand and we can have a dialogue. You can also type a question in the chat. And all of that is for those who are on the Zoom. Unfortunately, I cannot respond to questions on the YouTube. So next time, if you want to ask a question, join on the Zoom. Yeah. Nicole.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
So, I don't know if it's about what you've been talking about. It's just something I've been aware of for a while now, that I don't seek to read books. Like, I used to devour spiritual books, and teachers and everything. And I've questioned recently about the longing, because I don't feel like there's a deep longing. But there must be some kind of longing to want to engage with you and the Love of Truth community and the rest of it. So it feels to me like life itself is giving me the opportunity to see. The things come in and think, oh, why is that happening? I don't know. It just feels like, oh yeah, here's an opportunity to grow almost. And that sounds like it's trying to get somewhere, but it's almost like a hurdle, but something I could use spiritual bypass and say, oh no, don't want to go there. Everything is as it is. But I've noticed more and more recently, if I actually say, okay, jump in there, there's a freedom and a aliveness, even if it's scary, that I don't need to read the books and devour the books. Even though they're nice, I loved doing that. So just, am I missing out on something here?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like more and more you are seeing that there is there is nothing to get in the future. And usually the word longing is, we use the word longing to imply that there is something to long for in the future. But actually, the way I mean the word longing is actually not a longing for something, but a longing now.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that comes back to the love of truth. It's a love of truth now. It's not a longing for something, some future goal. that will magically make your life perfect. It's acknowledging that longing and living from that longing in your life, which then bridges the two sides of the paradox. You know, that you are that is aware, but you're also living in the human experience. And so when we acknowledge that longing to live and to acknowledge, to be and recognize and live that we are, then there is no paradox. It's just this. There's no two sides of the same coin. It's or non-duality and duality. It's all one. And the longing is where the paradox, the two sides of the paradox meet.
Yeah, you see the mind was trying to jump in there and think it's something it's going to try to attain, and I was, well, there isn't that. Yes, he's here now, and there's life, that there's challenges that come, and they're scary, and yeah, but
it's
there's
the
also,
mind. It's the mind that projects it into the future, that kind of hijacks that sense of longing. But when we don't pay attention to that, even if it continues, and we just keep coming back to that longing now, then it's not even, maybe we throw out the word longing, and although I love that word, but it's a living from, you could say, an open heart, or living that love of truth.
and I can see at one point there was the word longing was helpful, because it pushed me to sit, to find, and to continue to explore. And yeah, there was I can, and then somehow that's just settled more into now.
Yeah. And then, you can even come full circle with those spiritual books or all of that. If you see that they are not pointing to something in the future, that they are actually describing now.
Yeah.
Then you can see that you read them in a very different way to when you assumed they were talking about something in the future.
Yeah, a typical one is I am that. That's that sort of one I can pick up. I don't know, there's a depth to it that's never ending. Yeah, and yourself and a few other books. Yeah, thank you, because that's given me some clarity. It's almost like the mind saying, "Oh, you no longer long."
Yeah.
Thank you. It feels weird, by the way, not seeing the community.
I
pictures.
know it is different, but
Yeah,
you'll get to see them in our Love of Truth community meeting.
Good.
But for to protect your privacy on YouTube,
I understand.
I've been told that this is the better way to go. So yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. I see Dennis has written, I am more and more aware in my life that I'm not separate from my experience. So there is a natural merging with each experience whenever I am present. Interesting things are happening. I feel I'm bypassing whenever I think I know something or that I'm getting somewhere, but these are just passing thoughts. Yeah, I mean, even to say, these are just passing thoughts. I mean, it's true. They are just passing thoughts. And sometimes, we're on the spiritual path, we're so used to just saying, well, that's just thought. That's just thought. And we need to do that to not feed the mind, right? Because usually we have assumed that the mind is so important and we've given so much attention to the mind. But also, there's a point where we need some of these thoughts to play out some of these emotions. For example, I remember when, after my husband died, of course, I was feeling all kinds of emotions very naturally. And thought came with the thought, what am I, who am I trying to be, or who am I? Am I this grieving widow, and am I feeding this identity? Which is, it was a helpful question from thought. But it could have, if I would have really gone down that pathway of dismissing my emotions as being just feeding that identity, I would have not allowed the very human, natural process of grieving to happen naturally. So actually, I needed the thoughts to say, yeah, I am this grieving widow. I am sad, and I have lost my husband. Yes, they're all just thoughts, but at the same time, those thoughts are needed to process certain things. It's when we start to feed the identity and really believe in it and feel limited by that then we have crossed over into that kind of limiting ourselves and identifying with that. But if we can see it as a useful mechanism to explore and to allow the process of whatever needs to be felt to be here. So we take our thoughts lightly, but we also don't dismiss them. Dennis says, yes, I do enjoy these thoughts and they help. They make me smile and they have their place and can be true in the human context. Yeah. Yeah, it's a thin line also to acknowledge the maturity of the human. Maybe you have been on the spiritual path for a long time, and maybe there have been changes that have happened in the human experience. So we acknowledge those things, but at the same time, knowing that it doesn't actually mean anything about who I am. It doesn't make me special. It doesn't give me any special identity. So we also don't dismiss the human. So it's like a thin line to walk. And Dennis says, exactly, thank you. Okay. Zoe.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here with
Nice
you.
to have you.
It's a quite, sorry?
I said, nice to have you here.
It's a quite personal question.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a bit shaky to expose it in front of people. So it's about jealousy and insecurity. Yeah, in my family, there is a big background of like my mother growing up alone with her depressed mom because my grandfather left with another woman. And so I feel I carry a lot those memories. And with my last partner, I was even not aware of that, but he really went straight to the child in me to this point, like really giving a secure space, like with words like, tell me if anything I do that makes you uncomfortable and so on. So the child in me really relaxed. And I even did not know that was possible to be so secure in a relationship. And then all of a sudden, it's like, he mentioned something like to be in an open relationship. And I, with my intuition, because I'm so sensitive to this subject, I directly knew there was something behind. And indeed, this was a friend of us, a new friend, that they began to have nothing happen, but to have a strong connection. And I'm so sensitive. So this came to my psychic, to my space, their connection. And I don't want to have extra information. So this did put an end to the relationship. But I also lost an ex partner with whom I spent more than 3 years, and he died 6 months after we separated. And sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
And so we were in a very good friendship, even though we were separated. But deep inside my heart, I had a little sense of separation because something happened like this, like, a story like that. And so in my heart, there was this little closing. And when he died, it was so painful to feel this sense of separation in my heart. Because with him, we were on the path together. So we had such a beautiful spiritual life, and to be facing my sense of separation in my heart when he died was so painful. So when I met my next partner, my last partner, I promised myself that no matter what happened, I would never feel separated from him. And so, but it's so hard to, I still feel now like we are friends, but inside me there is such this deep pain and hurt and even anger that comes from so deep in me. So I feel sometimes I am bypassing, and because it's so painful. And I don't want to bring the child because I see that he cannot anyway take care of this child. I have just to do it myself. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah. It's painful, huh? Yeah. Yeah. And first of all, very beautiful how you describe your feeling of safety in that one relationship before it broke up. But it just shows you that you can feel that safe. You discovered that depth of safety in yourself, although in the time perhaps you assumed that it was to do with him, that he asked you if there was something you needed, or to tell him if something felt uncomfortable. But actually it was, you discovered that sense of safety in yourself. Okay, yes, it was nice that he was also facilitating that, but that's something to acknowledge, that now you know that that's possible, that you can actually facilitate that for yourself because you've known now that it is possible.
Yeah.
You don't need to wait for a partner or anybody else to kind of create the environment for you to hold that child.
Yeah.
You can just do it right now. Just in acknowledging the sensitivity and the vulnerability. And yeah, sometimes it is painful. And it's not so much, I mean, you called it separation. How do you know that it's separation?
Like it's this sense of resentment.
Resentment.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that sensation of resentment, and maybe also a thought story with it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you are separate. It's a sensation, and it's a thought story.
Yeah.
Happening in you.
Yes.
Right? So we're not denying the sensation. You feel it, it's painful, but it's happening in you. So it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that lately. I was thinking maybe it's also the shock of my ex-partner transitioning, that maybe I crystallized something there, like, oh my God, this is so terrible to feel separated. And maybe while actually maybe it's, maybe I just made, you see what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like it was when you said that at first, I almost expected you to say the opposite, because my experience personally, but also from what other people speak about, when a loved one dies, in actual fact, most people experience, and this is kind of a knowing that is beyond experience, is that finally you are not separate, in that before there were two separate bodies. You were never separate, of course, right? Even when they were two apparent separate bodies. But when there's no longer the other body, then there's no separation in the experience also.
I see.
He doesn't go anywhere. He's here with you, in you, as you. It doesn't mean that you don't feel the pain of loss. But it doesn't mean that there's separation.
Mm. Mm. Sometimes I'm wondering if the pain is just natural as a human being, and maybe as a couple, this sense of jealousy is also part of it, and maybe I'm wanting to avoid it and to find like the perfect solution, or
Yeah, I mean, whether it's natural or not, I mean, for sure, you know, jealousy is a human emotion of experience. And if that's what you feel, then that's what you feel. Right? You can investigate that. You can look at it with curiosity, but it is what is. So to try to pretend that you're not, or try to be more spiritual and go along with an open relationship and deny those feelings, you know, this is a classic spiritual bypass, right?
Yeah, for sure. Not doing that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question, if someone wants. Jean-Marc.
Yes, I'd like to speak of something that seems to be the opposite of bypassing. And for me, it's maybe being stuck, because the mind and thought wants an explanation again and again and again. And in a way, I know it's impossible. The thought won't never get it. And but in a way, I persist to say that I've not recognized my true nature in some way, because I want to bring this in this experience, in fact.
Yeah, so there's the self-doubt.
Yeah, there is no doubt, in fact. I
Yeah.
know thought won't never uh, find an answer. And But this kind of thought comes again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah, okay, but they are just thought, right? This is a case of when we need to actually see, well, okay, thought doesn't know. And so even if those thoughts come again and again, you don't have to feed them. You don't have to give them more importance than anything else.
But maybe last week and the week before, I was kind of depressed. I was caught in some thoughts. I was in a way, and yeah.
Yeah, so then there's a wave of something passing through, let's say. And because, if you describe it as feeling depressed, it's probably not just thoughts, it's probably also physical or emotional sensations going on as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
Yeah, so that's sometimes we have those waves where there's those kind of sensations, and when they're there, okay, then that's what's here. And thought, of course, wants to understand or give them a reason, an explanation, to make them mean something. And by doing so, when we believe those thoughts, it perpetuates the experience, those emotions and sensations of heaviness, because we give it meaning.
Yes, and it brings an identity, a strong one with that.
Yeah, I'm someone who's depressed, or I will never get it, or I'm still not there yet. Yeah, all those kinds of ones. Yeah, so they're old friends, those ones, right? You're very used to collapsing into that one,
Mm.
right? So
That's a nice game.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it takes some courage
Mm.
to step out of that and actually acknowledge, well, I'm not that one that, I'm not that story. I don't know who I am, because it's filling a gap, right? It's filling a gap of not knowing who you are or not
Mm.
knowing what anything means. And without that identity, there's nothing. There's just simply the sensations or emotions.
I see there is some kind of arrogance to keep this alive, to believe this.
Yeah. It sounds like you put yourself small, like you're doubting yourself, but at the same time, actually, it's a specialness, right? You keep yourself separate. So, well, I'm this someone that's separate from life because I'm this someone who will never get it. But actually, you are not separate. You are already this, and you already know it. This has been consciously acknowledged many times. It's already recognized, and the thinking has no idea
But
what that means,
I want some kind of proof.
and you'll never get it. The thinking will
That's
never be
really,
satisfied.
yeah, that's very difficult for this one.
Hmm. Yeah, you get used to it. Yeah, actually, this ties in with the next open meeting. The theme for the next one is dealing with disappointment and disillusionment. So, because when we really
Nothing
recognize,
to get. There is nothing to get. Yes. And I spent decades to try to get something.
yeah, and to really acknowledge that there is nothing to get, it leaves you just with this experience right now.
But I can't expect that these kind of thoughts leave me at some point. Maybe I won't believe them less and less, but they won't never leave me.
Yes, but who needs them to leave? Who cares if they're here?
Mm. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And okay, last question from Zoe. Could you speak about this sense of separation, please? The one who wants to stay separate and be special. Yeah. Well, I mean, every identity that plays out is it wants to be special in some form, right? Even especially unspecial, or especially unworthy, or especially bad, or especially good. You know, it goes in all directions. But when we believe that I am someone, I am a particular story of me, then this story keeps us somehow separate when we believe it, when we take it seriously. But on the other hand, these me stories, they can be here, and you know, we can see that they are just stories of the mind. They don't actually mean that I am this separate me. And when we see that, then we can see them like a game, like a play, you know. They're playing as if I'm this type of person. You know, it's just a story. So if we can keep seeing that I'm not these stories, then the stories are then free to be here. They're welcome because they don't mean anything about anyone. And they don't mean that you are separate. Because there is no separation. There is never any separation. This is just life playing with itself. And it plays the game as if there is separation in order to know itself, to meet itself, to explore itself. And this is amazing, right? If it wasn't for this play of separation, we wouldn't be able to meet like this. But don't take it seriously, right? That's the only point. You know, don't take it to really be true. It's a play as if. And it's those little words as if are very key here. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll stop there for today. Thank you very much, everyone. And as I said before, the next open meeting will be on the 5th of June on the theme of how to deal with disappointment and disillusionment. So it'd be great to see you there. And also to mention that there are still places on the retreat in the Netherlands in the first week of July, the 1st to the 5th of July. And that's 5 days of intensive exploration together. And you can also join online if you can't actually make it to the Netherlands. But of course, it's wonderful if we meet in person finally, right? Okay, I hope to see you there. Sending you lots of love. See you next time.